The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, one of the most beloved games of the franchise, and one of the most celebrated video games of all time. Majora's Mask expands on the elements that made Ocarina so good, adding new gameplay mechanics and challenging dungeons. With new attacks like the Deku Spin, Zora Boomerangs, and Goron Pound, the B button gets a lot more mileage than previous titles. But wait a minute, do we even need the sword at all? Can you beat Majora's Mask without the sword? Yes, you can. Perhaps a better question we can ask is Majora's Mask hard to beat without the sword? Today I'm going to show you exactly how I achieved this run, and everything about it that turned this game into a splitting headache for me. The beginning of the run starts out in typical fashion. Shield dropping some grass for rupees and making my way to Clocktown, we're transformed into Deku Link to start the first part of the game. As you expected, nothing is different at this stage. You can't even use the sword as Deku Link anyway, so I just proceed normally. Chase the bombers, grab the moon sphere, and win back the ocarina to reverse time. Business as usual. This is where the run goes from being a joke to becoming a frightening reality. A mere seconds after healing myself, we have a problem staring right at us. You know that song that lets us warp around the entire world? Well, they use owl statues to mark these locations. You want to know how to activate these statues? Hitting it with the sword. You can try attacking with every transformation mask. I promise you it won't work. Unfortunately for us, that means that everywhere we go from now on is going to be on foot. Having addressed that, the easiest buff we can give ourselves is an extra heart container. We already grabbed a heart piece before the Skull Kid fight, and there are 3 other low-hanging fruit near the swamp. First, we're going to kick the Deku Scrub out of his home once more with a moon tier. This will give us access to his deed. Making our way to the swamp, we can grab an easy heart piece up the center tree. Before we hit the first dungeon, we can grab another heart piece trading the deed we just got and flying up to the roof of the boathouse. We do have one more heart piece to grab, but since we're already in the swamp, we might as well progress the game in the same 3-day cycle. After getting caught by guards an abnormal 6 times and accidentally watering an unplanted patch of dirt, we get our money's worth of beans, finish the castle stealth mission, and get the Sonata of Awakening. Painfully walking everywhere up until now has made me miss an old friend, a faithful companion that carries me through every run, the Bunny Hood. Having that specific mask early will help tremendously with this playthrough, as well as my sanity. To get the Bunny Hood, you have to use the Bremen's mask to transform a troop of chicks into full-grown chickens at Romani Ranch. The owner gives you the hood in gratitude for getting to see his baby chicks grow up before their impending doom when the moon crashes. Whoa, that's deep. To get to the ranch, you're expected to blow up a giant boulder with a powdered keg after the second dungeon, but screw that, we're gonna get through early. Turns out, if you wait until the 3rd day, the laborer actually finishes breaking down the rock, which frees up the road to Romani Ranch. Good work, man. Now that we have our trusty ear hat, we can easily grab our last heart piece in the grotto. Thankfully, P-hats can be killed with Deku Link. Good to know. Opening this chest is going to give us 4 heart containers. This may not seem like a lot, but with the uncertainty of facing the first dungeon without the sword, having a bigger safety net will really help in the long run. With a decent starting arsenal of speed and defense, we arrive at our first major challenge for the run, Woodfall Temple. Up until this moment, enemies have been easily defeated or not even worth fighting. That's about to change as we go up against obstacles that require more careful planning and new strategies to overcome. This temple made me realize that I didn't know this game as well as I thought I did. The first issue we need to address is the fairies. Every temple in the game has 15 stray fairies that are optional collectibles. If you catch them all and bring them to the fountain near the dungeon, you can get yourself a broken upgrade that oftentimes makes the difference between life and death, or just saving you some time. As it just so turns out, the reward for Woodfall Temple is an enhanced spin attack. Too bad I can't use it. And since the reward for Dungeon 4 is the Great Fairy Sword, we won't be doing that side quest either. Right off the bat, this temple throws a barrage of turtles to kill to get the map. Of course the sword is not going to help here, but that's just it. Even during typical gameplay, the sword was not a viable strategy to begin with. Can you even beat them with the sword? I don't care enough to try. For a lot of this temple, using the sword is more of an option. Even staying in Young Link form is hardly necessary. As we progress the game, we'll see that most dungeons revolve around transformation masks. It's only in specific fringe cases that playing the game normally becomes the most effective strategy. This next fight was genuinely the first in the run where no sword became a detriment. The moment I spun at the guy with Deku Link and he merely became stunned, I almost needed a new pair of underwear. At the time, I hadn't thought about using bombs or sticks to fight, so my best guess was to just shoot bubbles at him with the limited magic I had. And thank goodness this actually did the trick, because there was a good chance I would have left the temple to look for other weapons like a smooth brain. Anyway, now that we cleared the first struggle, one of my initial mistakes starts to slowly set in: digital controls. You see, I play this on an emulator, so the aiming controls are not nearly as precise as they would be on console. But thankfully, we have the power of Z targeting, so we can easily take the mini-boss down with a couple of arrows and get ourselves a boss key. This boss fight was the first moment in the run where I thought I might actually die. Now normally, there are no tricks to this fight, just a one-on-one deathmatch between two sword fighters. Sure, there are bombs scattered around and a flower for Deku Link, but using those haven't exactly helped me in the past. Now, they're all I've got. After a while of running around, I discovered that you can chain spin attacks with Deku Link and repeatedly stun him. At first, it seems like it's doing something, but trust me, it doesn't. The butterflies can't hurt you while you're doing this, so screw it, it's worth a shot. Well, I sat here for a long time, hoping that my attacks were doing something, but they just don't. As far as I'm concerned, this is as good as a stun, only he doesn't appear blue like other enemies. But this got me thinking on the right track. Attacking him with bombs is like waiting for a solar eclipse on Mars. But if you manage to stun him and immediately place a bomb down while continuing to spin, you can do real damage. Once we got this going, it was only a matter of time, and it wasn't long before I finished the job. After beating the first temple, things are starting to look brighter. As much as Woodfall was Deku-centered, Snowhead is even more so with the Goron mask. Since we managed to clear Woodfall at a good hour, we're perfectly timed to get a heart piece from the King of Dance himself. Another quick heart piece to get is at North Clocktown on top of the tree. Having the bunny hood will make this easier. Without wasting a second, we make our way up to the mountain. The Goron's mask is the following item we want to get, and getting this will give us a more powerful attack for the future. Next, I experiment with futility and waste our spring water on a giant snowball. Nobody fails at pouring water out of a bottle like me. I learn the song I need, make Andre the Goron pass out, and head up to Snowhead Temple. Wait a second. There's an item I forgot about that might be useful. The Blast Mask. We can get this by goofing around for a few hours and stopping a thief from robbing an old lady. This mask can trigger an instant explosion on my face. The other item I have to get here is the Fairy Mask, an absolute necessity. Having this will allow us to collect stray fairies within the temples. Unlike Woodfall, the Snowhead prize is a double magic meter, and since we're going to be using fire and ice arrows later, we will definitely need this upgrade. With these two items, we're ready to take on Snowhead. Instantly, we're granted with Goron Punch, and man does it feel good to damage enemies. Up until now, we've had to sweat through combat, but going into this temple, I'm feeling pretty confident. The first room we enter here is the Compass. Did you know that if you target your enemy while being frozen, Link will still rotate in a block of ice? I never knew that glitch. Anyway, we can easily blast our way through this door. Thanks, Blast Mask, and progress through the temple, collecting fairies along the way. This brings us to the most overused mini-boss in the game, the Wizrobe. The fight is intended to be done purely with arrows, so clearly this won't be an issue going forward. Killing the Wizrobe unlocks the fire arrows for us, which are definitely going to come in handy later. After this, there's not much going on here. I wish I had more to say about Snowhead, but besides some minor inconveniences, it mostly keeps true to the base game and caters to the transformation mask even more so than before. We do have to find the remaining fairies, but once we do that, we just need to get the boss key. You want to know the next mini-boss? You guessed it, another Wizrobe. But the room's bigger this time, so the fight's different? Come on, Nintendo. I know you only had a year to develop this game, but the same fight back-to-back in the same temple is unnecessary. And as for Goat, or Got, he's not that bad. If you wanted to play this fight differently, you could stand in the center and shoot arrows at him. It would eventually kill him, but as far as this run is concerned, we're just going to beat him normally. So that's it. The second temple is cleared, and we're halfway done with this run. The best part is, the next 2 temples will be much easier after we upgraded our magic. I completely forgot the Great Fairy. We just reset time, so the last thing I want to do is repeat Snowhead. Let me think about this. I know Great Bay probably won't suffer, but Stone Tower? I don't know, man. This is not how I wanted to play the game, but I suppose as long as we can generate magic fast enough, it still might be possible. If we're gonna do this right, we're gonna need some extra bottles. If you get first place in the Goron race, you get a fresh bottle of gold dust. Without getting too into the weeds, this race sucks. You never get it on the first try, and I swear it's programmed to make you lose the first 3 attempts. The next bottle comes from protecting the ranch from an alien invasion. All we have to do is shoot in the direction that the dog barks. Since we've already completed half of this side quest, there's another item that's going to save this run, the Romani mask. Possession of this mask will let us purchase the most overpowered item in the game, the Chateau Romani. This special milk costs a whopping 200 rupees and grants us unlimited magic for an entire 3-day cycle. If that's not broken, I don't know what is. There is one drawback to it though. You can only get it after 10 PM, meaning the earliest we can get unlimited magic is substantially into the first night. This might be viable for short quests, but definitely not under the time crunch of a temple. That being said, it's perfect for what's ahead. The Pirate's Fortress is easily the most tedious part of Majora's Mask. To get the 3rd temple song, we need to hatch a couple Zora eggs and get schooled by some fish. Guess how we carry the eggs back to the lab? With bottles, of which we have 3. There are 2 more places we can get an extra bottle, but trust me, it's more headache than it's worth. Our only option is to take a second trip to the fortress just to get a single egg. Fantastic. At least we get time to practice fighting with Zora Link. Since we got the hookshot at the fortress, we can access the Zora minigame that lets us get the 4th bottle. It makes sense to get this now since we're still in Great Bay and we're not quite done collecting eggs. To get a talking seahorse to guide us to a trench to save fish eggs from giant eels, we need to snap an unsuspecting picture of a pirate and give it to this surfer looking dude, no questions asked. Now that we have the boring part out of the way, what follows is one of the most unique but frustrating temples in the entire Zelda franchise. With the mistake I made in Snowhead, all the fairies we had gathered went to waste. I don't want to repeat that here. The reward for Great Bay Temple is half damage, which is effectively double health but with more screen real estate. This optional caveat induced the most stress in this temple. Oftentimes if I missed the fairy, I'd have to cycle around through multiple rooms just to slowly make my way back to the starting point. The amount of times I've seen this room during the run? Well, it's at least twice. I know it's a broken record, but again, the temples are mostly centered around transformation masks. As true as it was for the first 2, something about a swimming mask and a water temple is a match made in heaven. But there is one very clear difference in Great Bay. Let's just say if we want ice arrows, we're gonna have to earn it. To win this fight, we need to equip the bow, ready our blast mask, and smash the like button for the algorithm. This fight was an absolute blast. The exact type of challenge I'd want out of a swordless run. Like I said, I made sure to max out my arrows as they were going to be a pivotal weapon here. And because of that, every missed shot was worth 1,000 straight through my chest. And I'm not kidding around. Without these, the fight could have easily dragged on much longer. To preserve a little ammo, I opted to go with my favorite strategy, throwing bombs followed by blowing up my face with the blast mask. Now this seems effective until you understand the problem. The blast mask needs to recharge between explosions. A lot of the time, you only need 1 blast to kill an enemy. But when there's literally dozens of enemies and your health is consistently draining, this is clearly not going to work. So basically, this fight boiled down to chucking a series of regular bombs at the orbs. Before I knew it, the hard part was behind me and I had enough arrows to polish off the fight. The ice arrows allowed us to continue through the temple normally, and the boss was a typical fight barely worth a mention. With my personal nightmare over, this time I didn't forget the fairy upgrade, and man did I not realize how necessary this was. Because this jerk refused to let me in the canyon, our first stop is through Ugly Country to play a racing game. There's always a racing game. The next order of business was to see about getting a larger quiver, but digital controls quickly convinced me that I'd rather eat nails. The captain's mask is a critical component to any run, and I remembered this being a harder fight as a kid. The Goron's mask made quick work of Skelly Boy. This next segment was definitely the most unexpected of the run. I actually forgot how to get the Song of Storms, so I originally thought this Iron Knuckle fight was optional. If there was anything that could have killed the run, it was this fight. Nothing works on this guy. Not the Deku mask, not the bow, not the Zora mask. It was only after the last option I tried that the heart attack ended. Once again, the trusty Goron mask. Now we're ready for Iconic Canyon. So we play the Song of Storms to torment some mummies, grab the Gibdo mask, and gracefully climb the ladder down the well. I'm going to keep this short since it's not a walkthrough, but I prefer this bottom of the well design way more than an Ocarina of Time. The trading sequence with the Gibdos is a unique segment that you'd come to expect from a Zelda entry. Having acquired the iconic Mirror Shield, Iconic Castle is our next target as we gradually chip away the endgame of the Swordless Mask run. Short aside, I love how when you equip the Gibdo mask, the Redeads dance like there's a wedding reception. As I made my way through the castle, a sobering thought lingered in my mind. You see, there's this crack in the ceiling of the main room that you're supposed to bomb. When you do this, you can use the light from the outside world to dissolve the light block and progress through the dungeon. Now I know this game pretty well, but every time I run through it, I always forget if you can use a regular bomb to break the ceiling, or if the more powerful powdered keg is required. Sure enough, when I made my way up the castle, my fears were confirmed, and alas, I had not brought any powdered kegs with me. So we gotta go get one. But there's a problem. We entered through the castle courtyard, but we gotta go back through the well and down the canyon to make our way all the way back to Clocktown. Normally I'd warp out of there, but yeah, I think we covered that. I begrudgingly went out of my way to get the bomb and hustled back up the castle. With that out of the way, we can now continue to get the Elegy of Emptiness. You know what the next mini-boss is? Another Wizrobe! Do I need to say anything more here? This next fight turned out to be one of the hardest of the run. Our best defense is quite literally our Mirror Shield, so the priority is getting as much light onto the skeletons as possible. This was easier said than done. They just stood there, cautiously avoiding the shield, and sometimes even going out of their way to run from it. So I said screw it and resorted once again to the trusty Goron mask. With a couple of solid hits, they were getting the shield whether they liked it or not. The skeleton boss was much harder than his subordinates. He has a variety of attacks that make it difficult to get close to him, and this head floaty thing he does will chip away at your health before you know it's gone. I wasn't concerned at first, but now I'm playing like my life depends on it. But as always, nothing survives the wrath of the Goron mask, and we were well on our way to beating the game. Here we are, friends. Stone Tower Temple, the culmination of everything we've learned. The towering heights we have to climb put another layer of tension on the clock. If I fell down at any point here, I was in deep shit. From this moment on, there will be no trips to the surface. This temple takes the very best mechanics from all of the transformation masks and masterfully blends them into an unforgettable experience. And you want to know the most difficult section? It was this room right here. It's crazy to think how not having the sword, combined with the tiniest, most unsuspecting monsters, can slow a run down to a crawl. This puzzle took forever. I'll spare you the raw footage, but just know that it took every fiber of my being not to throw my controller off a 10-story building. Shortly after this minor aneurysm, our first mini-boss of 3, the Garo Master, is here to remind us that this run is anything but secure. My first go-to was arrows as usual. He wasn't having any of it. This little freak is so fast that he'll hit you more than you can hit him. Even the almighty Blast Mask could hardly land a scratch. And as for the Zora, a little bit of fire and he just dies. And if you're wondering how Deku Link fared, well, I'm not trying it. This fight was a slow burn, but it certainly ended in a bang. Following this fight is an encounter with an old friend. Oh wait, I meant to say annoying Wizrobe who refuses to die. One useless stray fairy later, and it's time to get our boss key. This last mini-boss takes creativity to an entirely different level. For $19.99, a fight with this kind of imagination was simply mesmerizing. Gomez pulls no punches, and our best weapon of attack is our newly acquired light arrows. Thankfully, he's gracious enough to drop plenty of magic. I found a cool trick where if you keep spinning his Deku Link, his bats can't hurt you. Okay, well, maybe a little bit. But fear not, this late in the game, we're unstoppable, and a silly man made of bats isn't going to change that. Now that we have our last boss key, there's only one thing left to do. Preparing for the upcoming fight, I made sure to get as many fairies as possible. I've never tried to beat Twin Mold without the sword before, and dying only to repeat this temple was not on my bucket list. At this point, a thought dawned on me. If my only strategy for winning this fight is with arrows, I'm going to need every last arrow with as much firepower as possible. If you shoot the red worm with ice arrows and blue worm with fire, you do more damage. And now you'll finally understand why not getting the magic upgrade at Snowhead was a mistake. Sorry you had to wait this long, but I had to build up suspense. You can replenish your magic by breaking the giant pillars during the fight, but you need the sword to do this. And at this point, I didn't even know if arrow pickups were going to be dropped at all. Miscalculating this could cost us the run, and certainly a lot of time. The best way to win was to max out my arrows and max out my magic. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the moment I realized that I was jumping off Stone Tower to go back to Clocktown. So I didn't waste another moment. Now I didn't have a choice. It's time to grow fast or die. Finally getting analog controls to work, I got over my frustrations and got a high enough score to get the largest quiver. There's only one thing to get now, and if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. With our maxed out arrows and unlimited magic, we ascended the Stone Tower once again, ready to close out the final temple. Well, here it is. The last boss before the moon, the most likely spot for the run to collapse. Shortly after this cutscene, all of my fears were thrown in the trash. This was the easiest fight I have ever seen. If you just stand on the middle platform the whole time, they will not attack you. You couldn't ask for a better setup. I remember going back as a kid to get the Gilded Sword when I couldn't beat this boss. This is how it should have been done all along. Yes, you still have to make your shots, but guess what? They do drop arrows, and I was worried this whole time, literally the entire game. When Red Boy dropped at the end of the second day, I knew this fight was in the bag. There wasn't much left after this, and I think you all know where this is headed. With our infinite magic still in effect, our moment has come. It was time to open the clock tower. What followed was one of the most epic video game cutscenes of all time. This never gets old. The time has come to finish this run. It's no time to get lazy here. This fight was shaping up to be the hardest yet, and my god was that true. Majora's Mask was as fierce as ever. Phase 1 would tank a couple of well-timed shots, but amazingly, Zora Link was here to save the day. His boomerang stuns were invaluable in this fight, and I'm so happy this transformation mask got a chance to shine at least once. Getting assaulted by the boss remains was more infuriating than ever, and man would I kill for the fierce deity mask right now. But Majora's Mask? He's a chump. If he had any hope of beating us, he's gotta grow some legs. Having this fight slowed down this much really makes me understand how absurd this is. What on earth is he trying to accomplish? Anyway, I must have hit him a million times, and it seemed like he was only getting stunned. As we ran into the same problem at the first boss, there was a moment where I thought that maybe we couldn't beat him even after coming this far. Could that be true? Not a chance in hell. Fire seemed to do the trick. With Pee Wee Herman out of the way, our final enemy would emerge. This was without a doubt the final fight that this run deserved. Without any prior knowledge or strategies to assist me, I genuinely struggled to make any ground. If I got hit, there was a solid chance I wasn't getting up anytime soon. Without my normal laser beams to go to work for me, I can see why this takes 24 masks to blitz through this enemy. But then, I stumbled upon a gift. If you stand and shield with Zora Link, you can create a force field on land. Many of you might have known about this already, but I kid you not, after playing this game for 15 years, I only just found this out. The Chateau Romani never looked this good before. It didn't matter what Majora tried after this revelation, his whole career was ended, and to my wonderful viewers who stuck around to the end, this was the moment we all waited for. Alright, where to start? Going into this run, I didn't even know if this was going to be possible. To give some context, this video was inspired by some of my favorite Zelda streamers who play randomizers. Watching them pump out amazing content every day made me want to follow in their footsteps. Now, Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past are the most commonly run Zelda randomizers, and oftentimes there are huge portions of the game that you don't even have the sword, let alone the choice to use it like we did. Majora's Mask isn't as popular in this respect, so getting the chance to make this video really makes me grateful to just shed light on one of my favorite childhood games. I know I did a lot of complaining this video, but it was entirely for the theater, and I absolutely enjoyed every second of it. Swordless Majora's Mask is nowhere near as hard as the other games, but what I found interesting was the seemingly unlimited ways to beat it that's unique to this game. What excites me the most is the potential for speedrunning, because I know for a fact there were strategies I didn't try, or easier methods I was just too stupid to think of until it was over. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see in the future. To wrap up this chapter, Majora's Mask is a hell of a fun game, and it just keeps getting better with new ways to bring it back to life. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking the time out of your day to experience this with me, and I hope you enjoyed it.